Hello and welcome to all. From the NSA phone tapping scandal to the unlikely discovery of the Higgs Boson, and of course, the sad invasion of Ukraine by the Russian army, here are the 10 times the Simpsons predicted the future. When it was released in 2007, the movie The Simpsons was a phenomenal success at the box office, grossing over $536 million for a production budget of $75 million. This commercial success was obviously due to the extremely favorable reception of the film by the public and the critics, who literally had a field day when they saw it for the first time. The feature film takes up the old humorous habits of the series, adding, however, new gags, but also new characters that we had never seen before in Springfield. However, there is a rule that the creators of the famous sitcom have absolutely not departed from, that of making predictions that come true sooner or later. The unconditional fans of the American series know pertinently indeed that their favorite show is a true crystal ball, able to show you events long before their occurrence. They have therefore carefully scrutinized the 87 minutes of the movie, looking for the slightest little clue that the directors would have scattered there. As you can imagine, these fans managed to find the main prediction of the movie, which came true in 2013, 6 years later. Indeed, in one of the scenes of the animated feature film, the Simpson family, which has just escaped from Springfield, is tracked down by the government. The latter will finally locate Marge and the children, thanks to the NSA, who listened to one of their conversations. We can then see a huge dark platform with offices that extend as far as the eye can see, and where thousands of agents wearing helmets are spying on the telephone conversations of American citizens. However, the affair of the government surveillance of the telephone records of Americans will be revealed to the public only in 2013, when the whistleblower Edward Snowden denounced this scandal. If you watch The Simpsons, you know that good old Homer is a caricature of the average American who loves beer and soccer, and who has a real passion for food, especially when it's greasy and sweet. However, it turns out that Homer is a real genius in quantum physics, and his neuronal capabilities are much more evolved than we could have thought. Thus, during the episode entitled The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace and released in 1998, our brave Homer, who decided to become an inventor, wrote a strange mathematical equation on a board. But although it seems rather indecipherable and without any logical sense, this equation is carrying the one which is the closest to the mass of a Higgs boson. This fact is all the more disturbing as the very existence of this elementary particle has been officially proven only in 2012, and thanks to the help of the Big Collider of CERN. The Simpson Horror Show are special episodes of the American animated series, which are traditionally broadcast every year around Halloween. In the 19th edition of this colorful show broadcasted in 2008, one of the scenes shows us Homer Simpson voting for his favorite candidate in the American presidential elections. Facing a computerized voting machine, Homer chooses Barack Obama, but by pressing on the name of his candidate, it is that of his rival John McCain who is selected. Homer will then press frantically on the name of Obama, but each time the machine does what it wants, and it is always the candidate McCain who collects the votes. Curiously, during the 2012 US presidential election, a voting machine behaved in almost the same way, assigning an Obama vote to that of his Republican opponent, Mitt Romney. One of the most macabre and frightening predictions of The Simpsons is without a doubt the attack of the famous magicians Siegfried and Roy by their white tiger, which took place live during one of their shows in Las Vegas. Indeed, on October 3, 2003, while the duo of illusionist stars was quietly doing their show, a white tiger named Montecore attacked Roy very violently, causing him very serious injuries. No one has ever been able to explain why the big cat attacked his master, but this attack almost cost Roy his life and also sounded the death knell for the two magicians' fabulous show. However, the most curious in the case, it is that The Simpsons had already predicted this tragedy in 1993 with an infernal precision. Indeed, in the 10th episode of the 5th season, entitled Hell of a Game, the execrable billionaire Mr. Burns opens a casino in Springfield and calls upon the two German magicians Gunther and Ernst to run it. And while they are in full performance in front of their public, the two illusionists will then be reduced to pieces by their white tiger. When The Simpsons make us jump in the future, be sure that you will get a prediction that will come true sooner or later. Thus, in the episode aired on March 19, 2000 and entitled Bart in the Future, the spectators discover, not without astonishment, that Lisa Simpson has become the new president of the United States of America. The latter is then shown in a scene in the Oval Office of the White House, surrounded by the members of her presidential cabinet, of which the inimitable Milhouse Van Houten is part. Lisa then tells them that the country is literally on the verge of an economic abyss and recession, and that this is only the consequence of the mandate of the outgoing president, a famous Donald Trump. Remember that we are in the middle of the year 2000, and that the American billionaire has not yet set foot in the world of politics. In fact, Donald Trump only became the head of the country in 2016, 16 years later. The Simpsons had once again predicted the future with the precision of a Swiss clock. The Simpsons sports predictions are just as effective as their political or socio-cultural predictions. And when an episode of the show shows you an event that seems highly improbable, well, there is a good chance that it will finally come true. In the episode entitled Boy Meets Curl, which first aired in 2010, the Simpson family travels to Canada to participate in the Winter Olympics in the discipline of curling. Homer and Marge will even receive the Olympic gold medal, since they will discover a real talent for this sport, a little particular and not very popular in America. However, in 2018, 8 years later, the Olympic team of the United States won the gold medal in curling, and even if it was very largely disadvantaged in front of other countries like Sweden. Over time and through the episodes, the series The Simpsons has acquired a real credibility in the field of premonitory science and predictology, although most of the time it is only coincidence or simple chance. An example of the predictions of The Simpsons that have come true in real life concerns space tourism, which can be considered today in 2022 as the new tourism for the hyper-rich. The craziest family in America had already predicted in 1994 this new kind of space travel. In episode 15 of the 5th season, Homer Simpson will indeed find himself in a space shuttle in the company of American astronaut Buzz Aldrin. The brave Homer will then savor the joys of zero gravity, stuffing himself with chips in zero gravity and ruining the space mission. This hilarious episode predicts that in the near future, people who are not professional astronauts will one day be able to participate in spacewalks. And as usual, The Simpsons are not wrong, since in 2013, a British citizen won a trip in a space rocket by participating in a big contest. Of course, today, it is enough to have a few $1 million to be able to buy a first-class ticket for a little ride in orbit. We continue our series of the most incredible predictions of The Simpsons with this sequence that Game of Thrones fans will certainly love. So this is the first episode of the 29th season, entitled The Surfsons, and first aired on television on October 1st, 2017. In this rather slapstick episode, it's all about the kingdom of Springfieldia and a quest inspired by the heroic fantasy universe. The similarities with the flagship series of the time, Game of Thrones, will not have escaped anyone. But it must be said that The Simpsons have literally predicted the end of it. Indeed, in one of the scenes, we can see a dragon spitting fire and burning the Simpsons village. This reminds us of one of the most mythical scenes of Game of Thrones, where we witness the destruction of King's Landing by the fire of a dragon. It was the penultimate episode of this successful series, which can be considered as a grand finale and just another prediction realized by The Simpsons. We close this series of predictions by The Simpsons with the saddest and most sordid event of the year 2022, the Russo-Ukrainian War, which started on February 24th. Imagine that this terrible conflict would have been predicted by The Simpsons many years ago. Indeed, in the 19th episode of Season 9 of the animated TV series entitled Simpsons Tide, we can see a scene that strangely reminds us of the war that Putin is leading in the Ukrainian territory. In this more than picturesque episode, Homer Simpson is recruited by the American Navy, and as always, the big donut lover is going to cause chaos with his big blunders. Homer indeed shoots a Russian submarine, which causes a diplomatic incident and resurrects a Soviet Union that we thought disappeared forever. Indeed, we can see the representative of Russia at the UN pressing a button to make disappear the name of his country, letting appear another sign with the Soviet Union marked on it. We then see a hilarious scene of a Mardi Gras parade in Moscow, which almost immediately turns into a military parade, with soldiers and armored vehicles coming out of the harmless animal-shaped parade tanks. Even the huge flag with the logo of peace, the famous Peace and Love, will be replaced by an authentic red communist flag, decorated with the hammer and the sickle. A new Berlin Wall emerges instantly from the ground, and Soviet infantrymen mass to protect it, straight from the Kremlin. And to complete this unusual picture, Lenin himself comes back to life and emerges from his grave, ready once again to sow the communist seed in the world. This hilarious staging was a kind of caricature of the Soviet Union, which had broken up in the early 1990s, and whose reunification seemed highly unlikely in view of the historical context. This episode, released in 1998, when Russia was governed by the risible and corrupt Boris Yeltsin, was indeed in a very pronounced economic and social decline. However, since the accession of Vladimir Putin at the head of the Russian presidency in 2000, it is indeed a rebirth of the Soviet Empire that we are dealing with. The former Soviet republics are about to fall into the bosom of Moscow, and if today it is Ukraine that is invaded, tomorrow it may be Moldova or Estonia that will be. The unconditional fans of The Simpsons have thus had an omen that has finally come true. Although this time, it is not as funny or unusual as Bengt Holmström's Nobel Prize, or the takeover of Fox by the Disney Studios. And that's it for today. What do you think of these 10 fabulous predictions by the Simpsons series, which have finally come true? Which one of them impressed you the most? Tell us in the comments, and if you liked this video, don't forget to put a like and subscribe and activate the notifications. See you soon for new discoveries out of the ordinary.